Thank you all for coming out to this cool theater. Is it Thursday night?
It's Thursday.
You could be at home, like reading a book or listening to PJ Harvey on vinyl. But thank you very much. I'm happy you guys showed up.
It's nice to see a big full house.
It would be very embarrassing if nobody showed up.
This place always does. This brings out the film lovers in the city. There are lots of great movie palaces and theaters around. The Nuart is something special, and all of you guys are. It's such a pleasure to look out and see you, but also great to be here with you.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
This sweet and funny and sad and moving film. Father, mother, sister, brother. It seems like that would be a tongue twister, but it's actually very pleasant to say.
You know, I had problems because I thought it's really a terrible title in a way. But when you see the film, what other title? I tried to find a more poetic title, but just came back to this. It seemed just obvious. So kind of prosaic title, but it is what it is. You know, it's not Evil Dead 4.
Is that one of the working titles?
No, that's just in my imagination.
Have you ever gone to like a secondhand shop or consignment store and they have like a drawer full of old photographs that belong to somebody and now they belong to nobody and they're up for sale? You look through them and these were people's family moments.
You know, I haven't done that, but when digital cameras became popular, ubiquitous, my brother and I, we were going back and forth to Cleveland to visit my father, who was declining in health. And we would go to these thrift stores, and there'd be bins of point and shoot cameras. And we'd look through and see if there was film left in any of them. If there was, we'd pocket the film and then go process it. And totally random, seeing really strange images of people we didn't know, you know.
Kind of a similar thing.
It was kind of fascinating.
That's what I was thinking of watching your film. This feels like snapshots of people's lives, with their children, with their parents, in their dining room, in their living room, and we don't know anything before or after. We just see this one moment from their lives.
Yeah, I don't know, you know, really wasn't trying to say anything with the film. I was trying to just be observational and non-judgmental of these characters, and they came. I write backwards compared to most people. I start with the actors that I'd like to imagine collaborating with on a character, and usually I collect notes and ideas for quite a while, and then I write really fast. And this one, I didn't collect ideas for a long time, but I still wrote really fast. So the first inclination of anything for this film was honestly, gee, if Tom Waits was the father of Adam Driver, what might happen? And then I'm not like a Jeopardy nerd, so Mayim Bialik was a host of Jeopardy, really one of my favorite hosts. And she was really great. She's not anymore, and I didn't really know her work as a TV actor.
You weren't a Blossom fan?
No, I wasn't even aware of Blossom. But I liked her on Jeopardy. It was like, you know, who is Rasputin? And she goes, that's him. And she was I just loved her. So I thought, and what if she was the sister of Adam and Tom was their father, and then Vicky Krieps and Kate Blanchett was sisters, and Luca in India I had worked with before, both briefly, and I thought of them, and that my mother and her brother were twins, and so they were kind of telepathic, so some of the twin thing came from that, but also my uncle's name was Bob, so Bob's your uncle. And my father's name was Bob, so then my cousins had Uncle Bob. So whenever we had family gatherings, like, who's Uncle Bob? Where's Uncle Bob? Wait, you're Uncle Bob? It's kind of confusing. And then when I went to, you know, Britain when I first started traveling, when I was early 20s or whatever, and then I heard the expression, Bob's your uncle. So a lot of people here don't really know this expression, right? But now you do, it's in the film, so Bob's your uncle.
I love Adam's literalism and, you know.
But Ted's our uncle.
Yeah.
Yes.
I go with the flow, that
I love Adam Driver so much. I love giving him these characters that, you know, I don't know, very kind of bland and I like to give him dialogue that start with like, well, you know, I always give him this kind of stuff. He's so, I just, the guy's so great. I love working with him. He's very serious. And Maya and Bialik's very precise, as is Adam, as actors. And so our first day of shooting afterwards, Tom Waits said, "So Jim, you hired these two professional killers. What am I supposed to do?" Because Tom's strength is being obviously having a longer leash, let's say.
Looser, wilder.
Yeah, and all actors have different strengths, and I find it really interesting to work with them, with their strengths. They're all different, so.
You and Tom have a long friendship, working relationship too.
A lot of weird experiences.
What's a weird experience you had with Tom Waits?
Oh, okay, once we were in Northern California, Tom had a 1964 El Camino, and his wife Kathleen wanted us to drive into town to pick up these old wagon wheels that she had purchased from someone. I don't know what she was gonna do with them.
Already a strange mission.
And they were incredibly heavy, and we got them into the back of the El Camino, and we're driving back slowly, and I look back and it's smoking, the car's smoking, and I'm like, "Tom, the El Camino's on fire." And he's like, "What?" And we look back, and literally it was on fire. And Tom pulls over right in front of a guy who's watering his lawn. And Tom runs over and grabs the hose from this guy who doesn't know what's going on, and we have an El Camino on fire with wagon wheels in the back. And Tom hoses down the back tires, which are flaming, and they explode. And the guy whose lawn it was is just like, "What the hell? Who are these beatniks or whatever? You know, I don't know."
Too bad he wasn't a music fan, he would have quite a
Yeah,
Tom
well-
Waits and stole my garden hose.
Well, Tom has a story where he goes to a music store and no one recognizes him, and then he goes to the local dump and they're all like, "Hey, wait, so
Find your community.
Quite a few interesting experiences with Tom, including a sort of run-in with the Gambino family in New York, but we won't go to. Let's move along.
Let's save that for another time. So writing for him, since you've written so much and worked so closely with him and know him so well, are you like stick to the lines, Tom, or are you giving him kind of loose parameters?
No, I like to give Tom some looseness. What I find if I may say so, I think his performance is so beautiful in this film because he is very funny, but he's not comedic. And he's very moving, but he's not being sentimental. He just finds but again, all actors are very different, so, I'm very aware of that, and I learned that very early on. I had the great fortune the last year and a half of Nick Ray's life, I was like his assistant, right? And he told me that, he said, anyone that tells you there's one way to direct all actors, it doesn't know, it's shit,
Mm-hmm.
Because there's only one way for any one director to work with any one actor, and you find what their strengths are and you collaborate.
Yeah.
And when I work with actors on one scene, I don't say there's three of them, say it's Charlotte and Kate and Vicky. We don't talk all together about the meaning of the scene. I talk with them separately because it means something different for them. And that's also something Nick Ray instilled in me.
Mm-hmm.
But
So that they don't all have awareness of what the others feel and are thinking.
yeah, and I don't rehearse scenes that we're gonna shoot ever, because I want them to react and not act out a written scene, So I sometimes write little scenes where they're in character that we might rehearse, or we just talk individually or together about their characters in a way, mostly individual.
I've heard you describe Father, Mother, Sister, Brother is an anti-action movie. Can you explain?
So I had to write a director's statement. I was like, can you write a director's statement? So I had to think up some clever thing. I don't know, that wasn't really my intention. It's not really an anti-anything, but it is an exercise in removing expected things like drama, conflict, sex, violence, intrigue. There's really none of it in the plot. All those out.
Tom Waits holding an axe, though, generates a surprising amount of tension. Is there a story behind that scene?
No, I don't know where that came from. I write very fast, and I wrote this script in a couple weeks, really, as I often do. So I was just kind of channeling them in my head. I was imagining them, and I was really just kind of transcribing the dialogue rather than creating it. That's how it felt.
How do you encourage that kind of intuition and instinct? And
You
not
smoke a lot of weed.
Is that what it is?
No, that's not true. In fact, I don't really smoke weed, but I'll tell you an interesting thing. My editor, Alfonso Gonzalez, when we're cutting the film, because really the film is made in the cutting room, and after we worked on a cut for maybe a couple of weeks, Fonzie says, okay, Jim, you can take it home and smoke some weed and give me your notes on Monday. And he loves my notes because then the sort of priorities are things that I thought were important, I don't anymore, or I don't know. He likes my weed notes, but I don't really create, I was just being facetious, it doesn't come from weed, it comes from psilocybin.
I wondered, did different strains give you a different vibe or perspective?
I don't know, I'll just tell you the weed in New York is very strong. It's too much for me, but.
The first two pieces of this, it's father and mother. You've got Charlotte Rampling as the mother, and I was really struck by the fact that she's this novelist, but she doesn't like talking about her books with her kids. And of course, Tom's character has this life that his children know nothing about, and that he obviously prefers they don't know anything about it. I know you're not making a statement or trying to say something declarative, but what interested you in the idea of what parents show their kids and what they don't?
Well, both of those characters are, they live their lives, their own lives, right? Both the mother and father. I thought actually more as I was shooting the film than writing it about deception, of parental deception, And I think parents are not upfront about a lot of things, sometimes protectively, or sometimes selfishly, or they don't want to reveal things about their lives to their kids, or they want to be role models and they might corrupt that if they told the truth. I don't know, I think there's a lot of different reasons,
I think sometimes you just, as a dad myself, you just want some privacy. It's good to have some rooms of your own that aren't stomped.
Yeah, well, I'm a father too, and my daughter, I told her, a while ago, I told her, if you ever have trouble with authorities or anything, any problems, I'm your father, I'm there for you. So I will not reprimand you or criticize you, I will get you out of the situation and then we can talk about it or whatever. But I said, look, here's the thing, I fucked up my life, you fuck up your own. And I'll be there for you, and she really appreciates that, so she doesn't hide things really from me, but I think because I just want her to know I'm just there for her,
For the final act, you've got these twins who, you said there's some telepathy there, that they, I think between your mother and her brother, they sort of knew each other so well that they could anticipate things.
Yeah, my mother and uncle, my grandfather was a criminal and he was in prison and jail while he was a forger and a con man. And so he basically abandoned these little twin children when they were pretty small. And so their mother, my grandmother, became a school teacher to support these children, right? And so they were left alone a lot, so they had names for each other, and all through my life when the phone rang and my mother would say, oh, that's Bob, she'd pick it up and it was her brother.
Oh, she would know who it was beforehand?
Yeah, or sometimes when she'd say, no, I think Bob's not feeling well today, and she called when he had the flu, things like that.
That's
When I was
actually kind
small.
of like candy seeming, right?
Well, I don't know, because they were so close as little kids, you know, they were together a lot. They had definitely some telepathic thing going on, you know.
That's interesting. I thought you meant that it was just more like a shorthand between them, but that actually sounds.
No, it was pretty strong, yeah.
They have a choice at the end to go through all of their parents' belongings in the storage shed, and I get the sense maybe they will someday, maybe not. That's not for us to know.
Yeah, but you know, we gather so much stuff, and the thing is, they say, and the real drag is behind it is all our grandparents' stuff.
Yeah.
So this accumulation of stuff is daunting.
Mm-hmm.
So I just kind of wanted to end it with them left with all this stuff. Like, I don't know.
It was moving to me because
Just stowed it away, and I repeated the exact dialogue when they're in the apartment. They're saying, do we have to deal with it right now? I don't think I can, I don't know. And then they flipped it and gave them the same lines, you know, each other the opposite lines, but.
Oh, right.
Yeah, you know, what do you do with all this stuff? I don't know.
Well, I just thought it was interesting that the first two stories are about parents sort of keeping their children at bay, and then here at the end, the parents are gone, their secrets belong to those kids if they want them, and they choose not to open them.
Well, they found out a lot of things about the parents, forged documents and all kinds of stuff, you know. But what I thought was interesting is that, or I intended it to be interesting, I don't know, is that the father rearranges his house to make it look more disheveled. So he's presenting a little stage set in a way for that. And then the mother has the tabletop is a kind of little stage set with the porcelain and the cakes and kind of ritual thing. And then in the third story, it's about absence and loss, and the stage is empty.
Yeah.
And it's like an empty place that they had inhabited in their lives at times. So, you know, this presentation was kind of interesting to me.
It was. You mentioned the repeated lines of dialogue and reversing who says what. I enjoyed all the echoes in the film, and I'm not sure what to make out of them. I just liked when they would turn up Bob's your uncle, the scarlet clothing that everybody has, the toasting with something that they're not sure they should be toasting with.
Yeah, the fake Rolexes, the
Fake
skaters.
What's behind, what can you share about those echoes? How did they
Well,
come about, and what are
I think I've made other films that were like, little sequences like Coffee and Cigarettes or, Night on Earth and Mystery Train, and I like that form, and some of those I considered more like literary forms in a way, like simultaneity of stories, but this film I really thought of as a kind of musical form of three movements of one piece of music in a way. And I would be mortified if you looked at them separately or changed the order, because we worked really, really hard to very carefully construct the film as a kind of accumulation of things, you know. So these little repeated things are like little motifs in a musical piece of music, that little things echo and repeat, and you hear a little melody again or a variation or something. So I kind of thought of those things as almost a musical form. And also they were just kind of to amuse myself while I was writing the thing.
Are you up for taking some audience questions?
Sure.
Do you guys have any questions?
Here.
Take
What is the significance of the skateboarders?
Well, I want, you know, these characters are all kind of enclosed in these little situations, right? And the skaters represent to me a kind of, as skaters do, a kind of freedom. And I love skaters because skaters, they're usually anti-authoritarian, they have their own clothes, they wear Vans, they have baggy clothes, they even emerged in a way, some skating techniques come from empty swimming pools in Southern California, which is, break, a kind of criminal act, breaking into somewhere. And, I just wanted them to be kind of like, if little windows in the film of relief where you look out the window and you see some birds fly by, something like that. I wanted them to just be sort of like that in the film, and also a little tribute to skaters. I have no special visual effects in the film at all, except I ramped to slow-mo for the skaters, because skate videos always ramp to slow-mo, So it's just a kind of hats off to skaters. I appreciate a lot of young skaters I've met are like non-binary, anti-authority, the skaters in Paris, they skate around a police car going the other way, So yeah, it's just a kind of tribute for me to skaters, I don't know why.
Let's take a question in the back.
I mean, I do know why, I just said why.
Right there, yeah.
I'm so curious about how you arrive at like unique rhythm and pacing of all of your movies. It's really kind of it's really it's not conventional. It's like not what you would expect, and I imagine that your scripts in your scripts, do you allow for a lot of like space from scene to scene, from beat to beat, or do you find it in the edit? I'm just kind of curious how you pick out the rhythms of all your movies.
I have my own rhythm and I don't really analyze it, but it just sort of comes out of me as a kind of musical thing in a way. And I do, the spaces in between are very important to me, because in music, the notes that aren't played help define those that are. And I really like the things that I like the spaces in between. Like my film, Night on Earth, a film I made that is different taxi rides in different time zones, and in a normal plot, the taxi ride is just not important. It's like, oh, they get in the cab, and then you cut, and they get out of the cab. I made a whole film out of the things that you would take out of a normal plot, or I made a film, Coffee and Cigarettes, which is a bunch of kind of silly little sequences of people not doing their normal function, like the time you take out to have coffee and a cigarette,
Minimal spaces.
Yeah, and they're very important to me, and then I find that sort of, it ends up in the rhythm of dialogue and things in my films, and I don't really know why. Like I talk kind of slow, the music I make is usually kind of slow, maybe I think kind of slow. I don't know exactly where it comes from, but I just kind of follow it, but I do think of it as a kind of musical thing.
Yeah, let's see, right here on the far right side, yes, you just waved.
I love the transitions between the scenes, the visuals of that. Was there any kind of thought to what you kind of wanted to show with that, or was it just kind of something that came to you in your head?
I just wanted to have kind of a little respiration between I call them chapters or movements in the 3 sections. I just wanted to sort of let them dissolve away for a moment, and then
Palate cleanser, right?
yeah, kind of, and then we find focus of something, they're abstract, and then there's something literal that's focused on, or emerges. And they're also a musical rhythm and a place to put music for the film, because there's minimal music in this film. It's more like the air around the characters or something. It's not indicative of like emotional intention or anything.
I was gonna ask you about that. You described the movie as a kind of musical movement, but the only music I clocked was during those interstitials that.
There is other music. It's so minimal you didn't even hear it.
Played in my subconscious.
Yeah, there's not a lot of music, and it's quite minimal also, but there is There's a score in there.
I know. Yeah, right here in the front.
How'd you land on the 3 locations? Was it the characters first, and then where would these characters be based, or did you always have those 3 locations?
Well, the first one was because I have a place, I live in New York City, but I have a place up in the sort of beginning of the Catskill Mountains that's very secluded, and it's where I write, and I have a little recording studio, and it's my great pleasure to be there. It is my kind of step away from the so-called real world, you know? And I love it so much, so I kind of wanted his character to have something like that. And then by union rules, I had to find a location within 30 miles of New York City. So otherwise I'd have to house my crew out there. So this place was 29.7 miles from New York City. But it was really a lovely place with 2 ponds on either side. And there were beaver lodges in each of the ponds and a lot of birds, and it was very quiet. It just seemed right. The second one, she's British, but if you, Charlotte Rampling's character, but if you live in Ireland and you're a writer, you don't have to pay taxes, because Ireland supports storytellers, and I don't know, so I thought, she's a kind of writer of sort of upscale romances, whatever they are. So I thought placing her in Dublin would be good, and also I thought it was kind of amusing that her daughters moved to Ireland also to be closer to her, but they see her like once a year, you know? So that became Ireland, and then Paris is like if cities are like your lovers, you know, Paris is my second great lover after New York, and it's been very important in my life for a lot of reasons. I wanted to shoot there, and interestingly, Lucas, about the actor, his mother is American and white, his father is French, and his father's Black American, and he grew up partly in Paris, and but anyway, I wanted to show it not touristic parts of Paris in a way, so I had a great crew in France, and I loved shooting in Paris. I've shot there once before, but so that's sort of why those places were chosen. I love Los Angeles too. I have to confess that there was a long time where I was not really comfortable in LA, and I've worked here and spent time here. And in the last years, I have a really deep love of LA. I don't know, I just find it fascinating, its history, the architecture, the idea of Hollywood growing up around movie making and all the wild stories and the sort of dark side, the Raymond Chandler side, and the criminal side. And one of my favorite crime films of LA is Point Blank, John Borman. Of course, Chinatown, but Point Blank for me is my favorite LA crime movie. And I don't know, I really love LA.